Fiat 126, Type 126, is a four-passenger, rear-engine, city car manufactured and marketed by Fiat over a 28-year production run from 1972 until 2000, over a single generation. Introduced by Fiat in October 1972 at the Turin Auto Show, the 126 replaced the Fiat 500, using major elements from its design. A subsequent iteration, marketed as the 126 bis, used a horizontally oriented, water-cooled engine and featured a rear hatchback. The majority of 120 SIXs, some 3.3 million, were manufactured in Tychy and Bielsko-Biała plants, Poland, and were marketed as the Polski Fiat 126p in many markets. Fiat stopped marketing the 126 in 1993 in favor of its new front-engine Cinquecento. Total production reached approximately 4.7 million units. In Poland, the car became a people's car, and a cultural icon, earning the nickname Maluch, meaning the little one or toddler, a name that eventually became official in 1997, when Maluch started appearing, badged on the rear of the car. In early 2020, the 28-year production run of the Fiat 126 was counted as the 26th most long-lived single-generation car in history by Autocar magazine. The 126 shared its wheelbase and much of the mechanical underpinnings and layout with the Fiat 500, featuring a revised, slightly larger body shell designed by Sergio Sartorelli with improved safety and interior space. The added interior space resulted from two things: the move of the starter from the top of the engine bell housing to the side, which permitted shifting the bulkhead/rear seat rearward approximately 10 centimeters, and the lengthening of the roof for rear seat headroom. The engine capacity was increased from 594 cubic centimeters to 652 cubic centimeters at the end of 1977, when the cylinder bore was increased from 73.5 to 77 millimeters. Claimed power output was unchanged at 23 HP, 17 kilowatts, but torque was increased from 39 nanometers, 29 lb-ft, to 43 Newton-meters, 32 lb-ft. The 594 cubic centimeters engines were still available in early 1983 production. A subsequent increase took the engine size to 704 cubic centimeters in the new restyling model Fiat 126 bis, 1987 to 1991, with 26 HP, 19 kilowatts, of motive power. The 126 was manufactured at Fiat's Cassino and Termini Imerese plants, until 1979, with an overall production of 1,352,912 manufactured in Italy. The 126 was also manufactured under license by Zastava in Yugoslavia. In Austria, it was briefly assembled by Steyr Put as a successor to the successful Put 500, with assembly lasting until 1975, and production of 2069 examples. In Greece, there was an attempt to produce a small car named Dim, whose technical layout was largely based on the 126, but only 10 were produced before the project was abandoned. 126 did not achieve the popularity of the 500 in Western Europe, as the rear-engine layout was displaced by better packaging and handing front-wheel drive cars. The 126 became one of the last and longest production rear-engine small cars manufactured in Europe, survived only by the VW Beetle, whose production lasted until 1978-2003, globally. The 126 was also the last rear-engine small car to be manufactured in Europe until the advent of the Smart Fortwo. For a brief period in the early 1990s, a German company called Pop also offered convertible versions of the 126 bis. Two models were offered, a lesser-equipped one called the Pop 650 and a more luxurious model called the Pop 2000. In Poland, the car was produced under license by Fabryka Samochodów Małolatransportowych, FSM, and Small Displacement Car Factory, in Bielsko-Biała and Tychy under the brand Polski Fiat 126p, literally in English, Polish Fiat 126p, between 1973 and 2000. Due to a relatively low price, it was very popular in Poland and was arguably the most common Polish car in the 1980s. Its very small size gave it the nickname Malik, the small one, small child, pronounced Maliks. The nickname became so popular that in 1997 it was accepted by the manufacturer as the official name of the car. At first, it was almost identical to the basic model. Differences included a higher chassis, a modified grille on the back, and the front indicator lenses that were clear white in Italy, but orange in other markets. To distinguish it from the original Italian car, the letter P was added to its name. Throughout the 1980s the 126p was continuously modified. First, it received upgraded brakes and new wheels from Italian Fiat, then hazard warning lights were added to meet new lighting requirements. In 1984, the 126 received a facelift, giving it plastic bumpers, for all versions, and a new dashboard. This model was named the Fiat 126p FL. In 1985 a single rear fog light and reversing light, on opposite sides, were added to the standard plastic bumpers, an electronic ignition system and alternator replaced the undersized generator in around 1987. In 1994, the 126p received another facelift and some parts from the Fiat 500. This version was named 126L. The 126ELX introduced a catalytic converter. In 1987 the 126 bis went into production, featuring a water-cooled 704 cubic centimeters engine of Polish construction. However, the original model continued to be produced for the Polish market. Bis used some parts from the Fiat 500. The factory battery in 126p had a 35 amp-hour capacity, which, combined with the undersized generator, resulted in the car often not having a fully charged battery unless driven for an extended time. An upgrade to a 45 amp-hour battery from the Fiat 125p, 1.5-liter engine, improved the cold start reliability. The 126p was exported to many Eastern Bloc countries and for several years it was one of the most popular cars in Poland and in Hungary as well. It also found a minor market in Australia between 1989 and 1992, under the name FSM Nicky. During that period it was Australia's cheapest car. There was a convertible version developed for the Australian market. Citation needed. It was also successful in Cuba where it was one of the best-selling cars of its time and an estimated 10,000 are still registered today. The 126p also has a history in China. In the early 1980s, it became one of the first passenger cars to be imported to the country. The government initially bought 10,000 which were mainly used as taxis, but later the 126p also became available for private buyers, a rarity in the country at the time. In the 1980s, it was one of the best-selling cars in China, selling around 30,000 units per year. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, there were several experimental prototypes developed in Poland. A cargo version was designed in 1974 called Bommel, literally bubble, but also a colloquial term for small child, because of its fiberglass bubble-shaped cargo area, an off-road version propelled by Caterpillar tracks, and a front-wheel drive, front-engined model, with a longer front end and a flat cargo area in the rear where the original 126 had its engine. The rear of this prototype was similar to the 126 bis, which also had a rear hatch for accessing a cargo space created by mounting its flat water-cooled engine under the floor. There was also an attempt at installing a small diesel engine, due to gasoline rationing, in the classic 126p body. It is also a popular platform for electric motor and motorcycle engine swaps.